Hey everybody, it's Victor Vildras, and as you can tell by the title of this video, since Ludi's going to go on a hiatus, I'm going to be doing some opening starting move guides in the meantime. And I'm starting with Delhi. Why Delhi? The reason I'm starting with Delhi is because me and a couple of friends were starting a multiplayer game, and we were discussing nations that can be played in India to keep the game balanced. See, we already had a VJ down here, we had a Bengal, and we needed a third option, and I recommended Delhi. That was quickly shot down by virtually everybody because they said one of two things. Either one, that the 58 development Delhi cannot possibly hope to expand fast enough to compete with the 260 VJ or the 177 Bengal. The second reason they said this is because they believe that Delhi is too RNG, that you need to play Delhi with their best strategy of make Sirhind loyal and pray. Pray that nobody supports Sirhind's independence, because if somebody does, you need to restart. The reason they believe these things is because, well, they were told this by a strategy that was put on YouTube back in September by a YouTuber that generally makes great strategy guides. The thing is that in this case, his strategy is not the best strategy for Delhi. Basically, what his strategy was this. You make Sirhind loyal, and then you wait a month and pray. If somebody supports their independence in that first month, you just restart the game. If you're lucky and nobody does, then after the first month you go to war with, say, Kashmir. And then you make that war against Kashmir last a decade. Why? So you can diplomatically integrate and annex Sirhind without the Sirhindi event firing. Why? Because they said that the war against Sirhind is, quote, difficult even with allies, and, quote, a slog. Problem is it's actually one of the easiest wars you can fight if you use the mechanics available to you in the game. So, I'm showing you an alternate strategy that will make you far stronger and make Delhi multiplayer competitive. So, let's get this started. 1. This is obviously achievement possible. It is Iron Man compatible. This will work for your game. Multiplayer, single player, doesn't matter. 2nd, this isn't Leviathan. It will still work in Emperor, and it'll even work pre-Emperor, and I'll tell you how. So, go ahead and follow these instructions, and you'll be good to go. So, the first thing you have to do is, just like is, you make Sirhind loyal. You do this with lenient taxation, then strong duchies, and lastly, you placate them. If, for whatever reason, you do not have Emperor, say you're playing in a patch before Emperor, you don't have strong duchies available, just dev their provinces. I understand that most people don't like doing that. You don't like giving them monarch power. I understand, but if you don't have strong duchies, it's the easiest way to do it. So, there you go. The reason why you do this is because then you're going to not pray, but scroll down further to seize land, and you are going to seize Lahore. Yes, this makes them very mad. It's fine. The reason you are seizing Lahore is if you scroll here, you'll see it is a fort. It is this fort that, if they control, will give zone of control preventing you from going to these 4 provinces. And this is what makes this war a slog, having to siege down this fort even if it is a farmland, while Sirhind is running around with a 3-star general, because they will have a 4-5, 4-2, or 4-5, 4-3 general that's just theirs to go with, which is extremely annoying to have to fight, especially if they can run back here, get their morale back, get their manpower back in the field, and then come back and attack you, especially since they're going to outnumber you at this point. So, obviously that's not a good thing. By taking this fort, you can now chase them down, and they can't regroup. So, there you go. Second reason you take Lahore. Lahore, for your 58 starting development, will give you 23 more development, getting you to 81 before you even unpause. It's a good start, especially since it's pretty much just an economic province. So go ahead and state that just so you have everything coming in that you're supposed to have coming in. Lastly, before you do this, Sirhind costs more than 100 war score to full annex. Obviously that means you're going to have to take 2 wars to full annex them. By doing this, it now only takes 1 because the total war score to full annex them is now 91. It's that simple. And a whole 28 aggressive expansion if you let it go through the Sirhindi War. If you have Leviathan, though, they're already disloyal. Go ahead and concentrate the development. I know there's going to be somebody that says you shouldn't do this, but this is why you do this. 1. You are taking development away from somebody you're going to have to fight. Your core or not, it's just going to make your life a little bit more difficult to leave it there. 2. You are reducing the war score requirement to full annex them from 91 to 80, which means you can, instead of taking just 70 ducats, you can now take 130. So you get more money for doing this. The last reason you do this, or second to last, is it drops the aggressive expansion from 28 to 18, making it less punishing to simply full annex them. And then lastly, it makes Delhi a 31 development province, which gives you the age bonus and the splendor pretty quickly, so you can get that splendor bonus on your country, which are usually pretty strong. I would recommend getting this to 31. So, at this point, Sirhind is done. You don't need to touch them anymore. You're good to go. That said, next thing you need to do is diplomacy. You need to set your rivals. Now, the rivals you can usually get. Timurids, yeah, they will usually be there. Jaunpur will almost always rival you. In the 150 of these games that I've done just testing to make sure this works, Jaunpur has not rivaled me a total of 1 time. So expect Jaunpur to be your enemy. And that's fine, because, yeah, they're already your enemy. They're going to be your enemy. The other rivals you can have are Chagatai, Malwa, and Mewar. Those are the common people you're going to see. Now, if you look at your alliances, though, if they are not your rival, Malwa and Chagatai will usually ally you very quickly. Chagatai here will be your ally early December, almost regularly. The other allies you can get, Sind will always ally you. They will never rival you. They're always there. They're old faithful. Kangra will almost always ally you, but don't ally them. The reason why is because they're going to want Sirhindi land, and you don't want to give it to them. Do not ally Kashmir. It'll happen every once in a while, but you are going to see why you don't want to ally Kashmir. Lastly, Malwa is the strongest one I have available. Before you ally Malwa, though, check Bengal. This is why. Bengal, every once in a while, will rival Malwa, and you would rather have Bengal than Malwa pretty much every time. They have twice roughly the size of the army at the start, and they are usually willing to go in on Jaunpur later on. So they are the ally you want, but they will not ally you at the start. So what you do is, before you unpause, you royal marry them. That's it. If you don't royal marry them, there is a chance, however slight, that they will not want to ally you, which is obviously a problem. By royal marrying them, you are virtually guaranteeing that by December 12th, they will want to ally you, so before anybody can declare war on you, or declare independence, you will have Bengal willing to come in. Now that that is done, simply ally whoever the strongest person is that is available that is not going to make Bengal mad, which for me, in this case, as usual, is Sind. So now the diplomacy is done, we have one more thing to do. There is money and mercenaries. They're kind of the same thing. You have a couple of options for money. There's the loan and corruption. Don't recommend either one of them. If you are pre-emperor, you have the old estate system that you can get money out of. If I recall correctly, it's been a long time since I played it, but that's an option. If you have emperor afterwards, there is the crown lands exploit. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a card at the top of the page here, the video. Sorry. There'll be a card up there. Watch that video. That is a extremely strong way of starting off, especially as Delhi. It's useful for most countries, but Delhi in particular, because you're going to be virtually tripling your size at a bare minimum before you really even get started. It'll be a couple of years before you can even seize land. You're going to triple your development size. So crown land's not going to be an issue. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this without exploits. Now, how you do that? Go to the emirs and grant the monopoly on livestock. Now, it doesn't give any money, but it gives a mercantilism, which will make being indebted to the Jains mercantilism neutral, because you will lose a mercantilism, and mercantilism is incredibly useful, especially in India. This will give you 5 loans worth of money for 1 loan worth of interest. So your economy will not take as much of a hit. Go ahead and get this. The other option you have for money is down here, the monopoly on textiles, and that I wanted to discuss. So The reason why I would not recommend doing this, at least not until December, is if you look, you will get no income for cloth or silk. However, Lahore here is a silk province with 10 production development. There's a lot of money coming out of them. It will not properly calculate the money coming out of there until December. So if you click this now, you will lose about 60 ducats worth out of this monopoly because you clicked it too soon. You can do that if you want, or you can wait until December to take this instead of taking the loans from the Janes, but I'd honestly recommend the loans. You can take this afterwards and pay the loans off if you choose to do that. So, now that you have the money, by whatever means you decided to get the money, you now need to hire mercenaries. These mercenaries have a purpose. I will explain them, but first, you have a choice here. You can either hire just the free company, whatever mercenary group has the strongest combat general. Siege doesn't matter. Combat. Don't look at fire. Just shock damage and maneuverability. That's it. It looks like, honestly, the best one to have would be this guy. So you can hire him, and I would personally go with the free company. The reason why you're getting these guys is twofold. One, it makes it so you have more numbers. The likelihood that they're going to want to fight an independence war goes down the more numbers you have. The other reason why you do this is because if they do decide to declare an independence war, you will suddenly have the manpower advantage simply by having these men in the field and ready to go. So, there you go. At this point, you're ready to unpause, so you crank up the speed, unpause for a day. Why unpause for a day? Because that is all the time it takes to find your next ally. Again, not doing Malwa, but I'll go ahead and grab this guy here. Wait another day. I can grab this guy if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to grab this guy instead. Chagatai is now available. And you can go ahead and go one above. I'm going to go more than one above because there's a reason. I'll explain it later after all of this is done. But I'm going to go ahead and now wait for Bengal. And there you go. Have Bengal. So, the reason you grab all these allies, if they decide to actually declare their independence war, they will usually be supported by Jaunpur. It happens. That's fine. And they'll call in Bangladesh. So they'll have 8,000 plus about 3,000 plus about 20 to 24,000. You will outnumber them around 2 to 1. That's not a problem. You can easily win that fight. However, if you notice that they are now drilling on your border, like mine are, it's telling you that they are not going to go ahead and fight you for independence simply because they understand it's 2 to 1. And you can go ahead and wait. As long as they keep drilling on the border, they're not going to be declaring the independence war. So let me explain the independence war on why you should not want it to happen, even though you're going to massively outnumber them. Even though you'll outnumber them 2 to 1, you are going to get a truce with Jaunpur. You can get money out of them and all that, but they will not be co-belligerated, which means you can only take 1 to maybe 3 provinces, and only one of them is going to be a fort. So you would rather go after them and use a reconquest to get more land out of them for less aggressive expansion than to have them in this independence war. It's up to you on your personal choices, though, so you can go ahead and have it happen, if only to break their alliances, but it's up to you. But this is the event you're waiting for. Once this event happens, go ahead, take your troops, link them all up, take your army, and start marching it at them. You see how they're arriving on it the 13th of April? Go ahead and unpause until it's a day before. This is the point when you want to be, because at this point you click the button. So they were being supported by Jaunpur, they're allied to Bangladesh, but if you actually look at this, I'm not at war with either one of them. The reason why is because that event, the way it works, is you click the button, and it gives them an event. And the way that event works is if they choose to go to war, they are, 1, instantaneously made independent. They are no longer a vassal in any way. Period. Second, they get their 6,000 troops spawned. So if they don't declare independence, these 6,000 don't exist. The last thing that happens is they declare war on Delhi with a reconquest CB. The thing is that they were supported independence by Jaunpur, but that's only for independence wars, and this is not an independence war. They need to be allied. Their other ally, which is Bangladesh, is your vassal, who can only be called into war against you if it's an independence war and at the beginning of the war, which this is not an independence war, which means it is now their 14,000 against you and your allies' 59,000. You kind of got this. On top of that, you unpause for 2 days, and you've stack wiped over half their army. That's it. They're gone. So their threat has just significantly decreased. So you can choose to hunt down this 6,000 if you want, but I don't recommend it. Instead, just go to Lahara. The reason you go to Lahara is because your allies will go ahead and handle Sirhind for you. You are going to come up here and go after Kashmir. Kashmir will usually not have an ally. They'll usually be alone. The ally they do get is this guy who is right here next to your other vassal, which means you can then give his land to your vassal, and you'll be fine, while you take out Kashmir. The reason you are racing for this, however, is Multan here will typically ally Jaunpur, possibly Chagatai, other people that are people you don't want to necessarily fight to take out Multan, in this case, Malwa. But they will also, once you go to war with either Sirhind or Kashmir, try to pillage the land themselves and snag it. Which means if you're fast enough, you can end up making them attack you in a defensive war too. So I'm going to go ahead and start this war against Kashmir. And get this over with. But I'm going to move up, show you this, because they can't run away. And once I have my army set up to go ahead and siege them down, I'm going to then pause the recording, because then I can just move to the end of this war and show you the end result. So, now that that is set up, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. I'll see y'all when I'm done. And welcome back. That actually took a bit longer than it normally does because, well, this fort just would not fall. And as you can see, it's done. They still have some armies running around, I believe. Yeah, 1,000 running around, but that doesn't really matter. I want to show you this. You can absolutely full annex them before you take out Sirhind because you have a core here. Just be sure to hand this over to your vassal. It's no good to you. But Multan unfortunately did not attack anybody, and neither did Mewar, because sometimes Mewar will go after this guy, thinking you're going to leave it alone, but you can vassalize him. Multan will either go after Kashmir here, or Sirhind, if they so choose, and you can vassalize Sirhind again in Lahara, and still get your missions done. So, it looks like they're actually lining up to want to fight them. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it again, see if it happens, but I wanted to point out the date that this is done by. A little over 2 years. So suddenly you have all of it. So let me go ahead and pause it again while I see if I can get Multan to attack him. Alright, unfortunately they were lined up to do it, but it looks like they're waiting for me to peace out, which I'm not going to give them any land, so I'm just going to go ahead and end it here. There we go. And full annex this guy. Which, again, 18 aggressive expansion for 80 war score. You get 130 ducats. And here's the thing. If you recall, I was told that, well, you can't expand fast enough. You just can't do it. You start at 58 development. Well, you are now 177, which is the exact same development you start as with Bengal. And you are now running northern India. On top of that, if Multan did go in on that, you'd be able to click this mission, and suddenly you have claims all over Multan, which will make you 200 development, which is the same as Batmani's. Lastly, you can then go after here and go after Jaunpur, which, if you notice, you're on even footing all of a sudden with Jaunpur. And you can call in Bengal with Promise of Land and go after your other cores, which will quickly make you as strong as Vijayanagar, that they are at the start of the game within about 3 or 4 more years. So suddenly, within less than 10 years, you are one of the dominant powers in all of India. instead of waiting there to use your diplomatic reputation and putting that in the toilet to avoid this. Now, one of the reasons why I say that that's not a great idea is this. While it does not always happen, you can go to influence, offer vassalization, and you have people that sometimes will become your allies, and then your vassals. So, with this, you can expand diplomatically, getting more territory without even taking the aggressive expansion, because you still have some diplomatic reputation above 0. That's all you need to do. You are suddenly really strong, ready to go after one of your rivals and knock them out. If you look, you also have claims on Afghanistan, who is in the middle of taking out the Timurids, so you can swing up there if you want to, because you will outnumber them half the time as well. You have a lot of options on where you choose to expand, how you choose to expand, and who you choose to dominate, but you will dominate. I hope this helps you guys with your games. If you want to see more content like this, leave a like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing more. If you want to see a particular country, put it in the comments. I will say I already have the next nation picked out because it was requested by somebody in the forums, and I'm going to give an alternate guide for that country too. And you all will see that in a couple of days. But, again, thank you all guys for watching. Have a great day.